They're automatically ready, right?
Yep, you're
Let
on.
us open the meeting and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
7 minutes. Does everybody have a copy of the minutes?
No.
No.
Yes.
Who does not have a copy of the minutes?
I don't have one on.
Do you have one?
Go ahead. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got that. Yep.
Okay.
I don't think we ever got the July 8th minutes.
Yeah, I know. Do you have them? You have one copy of them? All right, I think we need to go through,
I think we needed to.
we're going to have those reprinted because we didn't have them at the last meeting. That, I looked back through my notes, and the reason why we didn't adopt them is because we didn't have them. No. You can send them to as many people as you would like, but that will work for me. Got a lot of copies of the budget committee meetings for some. Thank you. So tonight, as with our first meeting of the month, we have decided to extend our public input part. I see new public here. I'm very pleased to see that. If anybody would like to come up to the mic, we try to limit to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 people. Let's limit it to 5 minutes if you can, until everybody gets a chance, and then we'll let people go up again and do a second round. We like to hear from everybody at least once. Who would like to start? Anyone? Mr. Al.
Mr. Allen, 56 Smith Garrison Road. Watching your discussions the last 2 weeks, especially Mr. Fillion's thoughts and opinions with all the years that he's been on, from the turn of the century here, on the water and sewer. He was suggesting an overlay district, which is basically an obsolete way of financing and doing and getting the votes of people who are users out. Most of the cities across the country have gone to 501Cs. I've submitted the material to you on how they set them up, on to privatize with oversight commissions for the town doing what they do best, administration, and the private sector doing the private sector work at 43% less rate. A lot of the people feel as that pay the 1/3 that pay the water and sewer bills, and especially the upcoming $14 million worth of sewer bills, and then the upcoming probably another 8 or 10 down the road from the way the Noah's talking and the runoff from parking lots, the laws are going to institute. There's going to have to be user fees put in, or a parking lot runoff, how many gallons at 1 inch an hour, and they're all going to have to be charged, or a huge impact fee on parking spaces like Portsmouth does when a car, say a business is going to have 8 parking spaces, it's $10,000 a parking space. It usually goes to the water and sewer. If you're going to start treating that water, that's extra water flow that comes off that parking lot, that's more facility you're going to have to build after this facility, down to 3 microns. Positive point about this? Well, with the first building to the 3 micron, the most advanced one, we turned in 501C, we turned it into a school, and we train the kids on a 2-year apprentice program, and they come out of the school and go other places in the country with these new plants being built, and they have a $50,000 to $70,000 job. That's a win-win. But the people who are paying the bills don't feel like they have a voting voice, which you can't blame them. If they were a 501c, everybody votes. That's why 501c membership has a 99% voting rate. You pay a fee, you're a member. You pay your fee, you're in standing, you vote. So you're not having other people tell you, yes, you can do what you need to do when you put all the engineering in and spent all your own money because you're using it, that you can't have a run of pipe 1 mile long to send one flow or one well, you can't open this well. None of their business. Private sector running a business more efficiently. Same way with dispatching center. I sent you here to dispatchers. I know it's a sore subject. It hurts a lot of people's feelings. But if you want to sit with a police department with a big dispatch center, we got a beautiful one built the way it is. Either go small or go large. Because with the way the corporations and the medical insurance is, you've got to do something and cut it away and make it go big. And let other towns come into it. Put the towers up on top of the hill where they already are, more capacity, and let them become their own business. Unfortunately, we're at a point in 2 months where medical insurances, we can't do the way we did things the old way. There will be fines. The fines are going to be huge. We have a 1-year reprieve on a lot of companies over 50 employees. After that, there's no reprieve. Those are big dollar amounts. So we're too sluggish to deal with the insurance market the way it is, so we have to become more efficient. The commission can put in certain checks and balances, more people running up to Congress and putting more citizen bills into the Senate or the House side, as in running a bill up. And we have a particular problem with the school, RSA 189.6, busing. Schools shall provide busing for 2 or more miles. So anything inside of 2 miles, they don't have to provide. Well, every mile you turn a wheel and you have a driver in it, you pay insurance for that driver, you pay retirement. That's a huge expense on us taxpayers here. It's not how it happens in big city schools. That's why the fight in Dover over busing is happening right now. You can run a bill up right now, and they're a city government, we're a town government. It can be changed and back before it even goes to a vote, allowing town, that would be under 10,000 people, because we have a lot of votes, a lot of money riding on the rural development of 14 million, because we're at 8,190 people. We're under the 10,000 mark, so we got all our financing tied up in one basket. You change that status, you lose that financing with the federal government. Minor detail. There's been some talk of change. Change it, you lose financing that other people did work on. And to bring that to attention, because everybody's talking here, 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 which affects other people. Other people get chest pains when they come here to talk to you guys to try to explain it. You know, contentious whether you talk about the school. Well, it's something that has to be talked to. That's why the law, RSA law, is for a corporation. They're a standalone corporation. Okay, you're a corporation? Yeah, you're a municipal corporation, separately. You got to follow the law. 2 miles is where they have to start the bus. 2 miles is the bottom of Stevens Drive. 2 miles cutting across this hill is a Newfields line. So it makes all it down here is 1 mile, 0.3. Way down at Salmon, the end of Salmon. So all that's freebie. The school has got to be a give and take, and the school gives nothing, understands that it has to be cut. They keep taking. That's why nobody's just frustrated. There's no oversight of their budget, literally no oversight. But there can be with a little small bill change. That kind of sums up where I am, and there are other people who might want to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ms. Snyder, we have some written comments from you. Would you like to supplement those? Does everybody have a copy of Ellen's comments?
Hi, I'm Ellen Snyder, 26 Johnson Drive in Newmarket. Thanks for the chance to come and share some ideas. I thought since you were looking for input, I would put some ideas together and just share them with you. And I also appreciate all the time you all are putting in. It's a lot of time, and it's summer and things like that. So thank you for your commitment to our community. I think a lot of this, there's nothing earth-shattering here, nothing profound to say really, but I think you all have talked about a lot of things that I think are important. In particular, the idea of continuing to build trust and transparency and accountability and to enhance communication. I think some of this relates perhaps to the town charter, but a lot of it is going to happen or needs to happen really whatever's in the town charter, whatever kind of government we have, it's sort of fundamental to how we can move forward together, I think. And I think it should be a high priority, this idea of really good communication and sharing information for all of us, especially the town administration, the school administration, and all the boards and councils and committees. In regards to the town charter, sort of just, I guess, supporting some of the things you've talked about, and others who have been in the town a lot longer than I have probably more profound things to say or more wisdom, but I thought I would share what I've been thinking about as a resident. I think we should, for now, keep our current structure as a town council and a town administrator. I don't think you have time, and you've talked about this, I think, to change the structure. That seems pretty dramatic, and perhaps not enough time to do that. And I don't see the need right now, in particular, to change it. You have talked about, I think, reviewing the charter a little bit more often, maybe every 5 years. And if you think that that is a good idea, perhaps over the next 3 to 5 years, you could further study this idea of what kind of structure Newmarket may need, whether it's the one we have or other forms that you've talked about or other forms that may exist. But I'm not sure it can happen right now, but I think it is worthy always of continuing to look at that concept. I agree with what I think you've talked about in terms of clarifying the roles and responsibilities in the charter of the town council and the town administrator. I do serve on the budget committee, but I'm not here representing the budget committee, but I've been on it, this is my 3rd year, and because the budget committee was established in the charter, I think it is worth at least thinking about or talking about, is it serving a good purpose? Is it a good accountability and advisory role in our community, or is it redundant and duplicative and really actually perhaps causing less accountability? I don't know, but I've had thoughts on both sides as I've been on the budget committee, and I think it's worth a public conversation on whether we need a budget committee, because I do think the responsibilities for the budget are with the town council and with the school district, school board, school district. And we have a deliberative session where the public can weigh in, and of course people can always participate in the budget process. It's a fairly lengthy process, and there's lots of opportunity for people to comment on what they think should or shouldn't be in the budget. So whether we need the budget committee, I'm of two minds, to be honest. If it's determined that we do think the budget committee is a good idea, or through your process you do, I do think there could be more clarification in the charter in terms of the roles and responsibilities of the budget committee. I think it's fairly broad in the statute and in the charter in terms of what the budget committee can do in terms of during the process. Granted, the end result is really we advise on 2 numbers, or we put forth 2 numbers, the town budget and the school budget. But the process, we can ask lots of questions. And again, that's the part that I'm not sure if that's not just redundant and asking a lot of staff time and administrator time, just raising the questions. I think both the school district and I know the town administrator has been looking at longer range budgeting, which I think is a great idea. And I think they're starting down that path, and where that incentive lies, I'm not sure if that goes in the charter or if it's just we as citizens want our administrators to do longer range budget forecasting. I do support a stronger role for the council in developing a longer term vision for our community. Where are we going? What do we want to see in the future? Rather than, I think it's been brought forth about somewhat of the more day-to-day management of the community that I think is a responsibility of the town administrator. I think we can't underestimate the importance of good communication. So I said that, and I think you've talked about it and have got some things going on that. But I think it's really important in terms of building trust. People need information. Otherwise, we make uninformed decisions, or we assume things that aren't true or that are true. It's just hard to make good decisions if you don't know really what's going on in your town. And granted, people can come to meetings, people can watch it on TV, but that's not the same as sharing information in bite-sized pieces of information that people can digest. I think the e-newsletter is a great step forward in our community. I'd like to see that enhanced and expanded, and I'd love it if the school district and the town did one together rather than separate. I think that would be a nice way to show us as a community. The town website, I think, is great, but could use some enhancements. And this is an idea put forth before, but having a community forum where we host topics of interest throughout the year. We did one for the wastewater treatment and non-point source pollution. I think it was pretty effective last winter. And I think there could be those kinds of forums where it's not a public meeting. It's hard to come, as I think someone said, to speak at a public hearing or a public meeting. But if it's just a forum where we're all there sharing ideas, we might have some speakers, get some creative ideas about what to do on certain topics. I think that would be a really good idea. And lastly, I just wanted to say I do think the idea of joint council school board meetings is almost essential. And again, it could be formal meetings or it could be community forums where we get together and talk about things that are of importance and interest to both the council and the school, because we are one community. So, thank you.
Before you leave the podium, given my tendency to wield power with reckless abandon, would you be willing to answer some questions from the commission? Because I think we would. I detected that people had a lot of questions about the budget committee and how the process worked at the budget committee. Does anybody want to ask the chair of the budget committee, who happens to be here right now, about that? Anyone? How many people are? I will start. How many people are on the budget committee?
We have 11 members.
Why are there 11 members? Do you know?
I do not know. I don't think that's in the, somebody might know the charter better than I do. I should know that. It specifically says 11 in the charter.
You're gonna have 3, 6, and 9.
Yeah, I think there's, that's right.
Plus the school rep and the
Right.
town rep. And when we started, the budget committee started back in 61, 62, I think is when we first started the budget committee. And budget committee duties have changed a lot over the last 50 years, and it's, the statutes have changed. Way back in the 60s, when I first was on the budget committee, if an item was not recommended by the budget committee, it came to Article 5 to see if the town would raise $50,000 to buy a fire truck. Not recommended by the budget committee. Item 6, to see if we'll spend so much, not recommended by the budget committee. Item 7, there was no discussion of any of these articles if they weren't recommended by the budget committee. The state legislature over the years has started, reducing the power, I guess, of the budget committee, and they put in a 10% rule, and that gets so easily waived now. It's not even funny. I mean, all you do if you have an article that's going to increase your budget over 10%, you just have to put a statement on the budget that this article will exceed the 10% requirement allowed, and so it becomes meaningless. I mean, the legislature over the last 30, 40 years has reduced the authority of the budget committee considerably. I mean, but if they had pressures on them, a lot of people didn't like what was happening.
So, let me probe further into this. Does it make sense to reduce do you find that 11 people is functional?
I don't know that we've had so much an issue with the number. I mean, you always say committee of 3 is better than, but we're not going to get it down to 3, I'm sure. So
I prefer 1, but
yeah. So I guess the question, based on what Leo has said, which I didn't really know that history. Again, I'm not speaking for the budget committee. Granted, I'm the chair, but I'm here as a citizen, so just take that into consideration. I think given the role that we have played, at least when I've been on it, is really to put forward 2 numbers, the town budget and the school budget. And we do advise, we put our recommendation on all the other warrants in terms of the budgetary warrants. But isn't that the role of the council to put forward a budget and for us to scrutinize that as citizens during that process? And the same with the school budget. You know, we have 11 people that are, 11 more people, I guess, giving some scrutiny, but as Leo said, it's, you know, we're just going along in the same process that the council is and the school board is, until we get to that point where we have to put two numbers forward.
The only reason I'm kind of focusing on this is because this is really something we could dig into. I mean, how we recommend the structuring of the budget committee, what the role of this budget committee is, how many members are on it. These are the kind of things that the Charter Commission can really get involved in. And I'm sorry, this is for, you know, you're here and I'm going to focus on you, but what is it about? Is there frustration surrounding the budget committee in your opinion? And if so, are there structural changes that don't get into substantive issues that we as a Charter Commission can kind of bite off?
Well, I think it's no surprise if you look back at last year's process. The budget committee, you know, we spent a lot of time through the process and talking to both the town side and the school side, and we make our recommendations, and they can get changed at the deliberative session, which is the democratic process. But again, I'm speaking for myself, but I think if I look at how the Budget Committee voted in terms of supporting various warrant articles in the budget, it wasn't really followed by the public. They changed things at the deliberative session. On the school side, because the school has a constituency, whereas the town side, town employees don't really have a constituency, so it's a little bit of a different process for each side. I'm not sure that's completely fair, but it's a democracy, so we have these things happen. But I personally think if we as residents participate in the budget process that the town council has and the budget process that the school board has, and now it's a little different again, and if we don't have a budget committee, I'm not exactly sure what the process would be for the school district because it gets a little fuzzy, but Durham does not have a budget committee. They have a council, an administrator. They seem to be doing very well in terms of their town and their budget. So again, I'm not sure. Maybe the budget committee is really still a very important part of our democracy. But I don't know, there's people here who've been on the budget committee. You might have other thoughts about it.
One of the, excuse me, someone else want to go?
Chris looks like he's about ready to ask a question or explode.
What's your understanding of the mission of the Budget Committee?
Well, we had a great budget workshop in July, and I reread the charter again, and I reread the statute. And if I read the statute and the charter, it seems pretty broad. We can ask questions of any town department, town administrator, gather as much information. If we did that throughout the year, that would be pretty intensive work. The budget law book really says you do two things. You put forward a town budget and you put forward a school budget. And there's a lot of framework. There's a lot of stuff that you have to, you know, abide by when you do your process as a budget committee.
But I'm asking a slightly different question, Alan, which is, when you sit there in the Budget Committee looking things over, what are you trying to accomplish? Not you personally, but what do you understand the Budget Committee's purpose is? What is its mission?
I think people would have different responses to that, probably, different members of the Budget Committee. I think some people...
Well, isn't that the place to start, is to figure out what are we trying to accomplish in this process?
Right, I think some people by nature, I think, look forward, you know, look to the vision, the future, where are we going, and what's this next budget, you know, our ultimate role is this next budget, FY15. It's not with FY13 and it's not with FY14. But because we meet and we invite people to our meetings, we talk about details of the current budget or the past budget or how we do in terms of revenues. We meet, and so we talk about the budgets. But we can't really start working on the FY15 budget until the council and the school board put it together, which is later this fall. But we've been meeting, not real regularly, but since May.
Anyone else?
Now,
Yep.
one thing hasn't been discussed too much in recent years, but in years back, they always felt there should be a disconnect between the people who authorize the expenditures and the people who do the spending. And if you have the budget committee that does authorize, expenditures, whatever, then the council's job, and then of course it get approved at deliberative session, the council's job is to follow the wishes of the deliberative session and the people, rather than have the people who are going to work with the budget be the people deciding how much it should be. This used to be discussed at quite a bit several years back, that there should be a disconnect between the people who are deciding how much money should be spent and the people who are doing the spending of the money. And one of the courses the budget committee I always felt was, what is affordable? And you see big changes, something is 10,000 one year, it's 20,000 next year. Is it reasonable? No, whatever, and that's what we've looked at a lot in the past, is affordability.
It was another set of eyes then to look at this again, a separate, complete set
Right.
of ideas and eyes.
And look at affordability as well, need.
But if that mission isn't clearly defined, if there's differences of opinion about what the mission of the budget committee is, then maybe you got to ask yourself, what is being accomplished? And you got to define what it is you think should be accomplished in the process, in my mind. Otherwise, you don't have anything to gauge success by. So is the budget committee's function to go through the budgets and ensure that they are rational? Or is it to go out there and actively look for savings? You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I don't know the answer to the question, but I don't think there is an answer to the question. And I think maybe that's part of where the frustration is coming from, is the mission just isn't defined.
And I think it changes based on the,
Yes.
who the membership is and what people's feelings are. And the idea of this second set of eyes or third set of eyes is really actually written into the budget law book. That's what it is.
That's a very important function.
Is another set of eyes. And if we believe that's really important, and I'm totally supportive of that, we're going to be going through that process this fall. So I'm not trying to undercut in any way our current budget committee or anything. I just think it's important to talk about it, as it seems like it's a pretty important part of potentially the charter and where we might go. So I guess I would encourage the charter to look at Durham, because they don't have a budget committee, and see how that functions, and really look at, has the budget law statute changed enough over the years that we need to think about a little bit more clearly defining what the budget committee does. Because even as good as the budget law training was, it's still really our interpretation of what the budget committee wants to do in a given year. How much detail we want to get into, or do we just want to meet from September to January and just focus on the next year's budget, or the 5-year forecasting, if that's a role that would fall to a budget committee. But I think it would be helpful to look at it and perhaps refine it, clarify it.
I would love to see, since we've had a charter with a budget committee, on the town and school side, but I guess town just because we're dealing with the charter here, what the recommendations have been from the council, and what has passed the budget committee, and what has passed deliberative session. And, not a betting man, but I'm willing to bet the numbers are pretty consistent across the board. I'd like to take a look. I think that would actually be informative to me. Has the budget committee historically served as just like, has the number been pretty consistent with what the council's been putting out? Or has it really fulfilled a function of being that other set of eyes to ensure they're being honest brokers in the council? Because here's what I'm balancing. I like the fact that there's a check and balance, that the people that are expending are not the individuals that are actually approving the budget, although you could say there's a check and balance with the voters, since the voters are the ones who have final control of the budget. But we also balance, we talk about participation, the more committees, the more things we have, and knowing that we have a very small percentage that actually ends up being active and participating, and we talk about turnover, and we talk about like trying to just get more people serving, or just keeping people serving longer, the more things we have, we're spreading that base of individuals that are willing to participate thinner and thinner, which wears them out because they're on 2 things at the same time, or 3 things, and they end up spending 3 years doing it and they're done. So I'm not saying the budget committee is a bad idea. I'm saying I'd like to see the numbers as to what impact it's had before I can make determinations whether it's actually something that we should be spending the human capital we have a limited amount of that are willing to volunteer in this function.
My experience is, candidly, I guess I've been on it for a total of 9 years, is the attitude of some is to regulate and question and interrogate and hopefully have a winning argument as to what's presented is appropriate or inappropriate. And I haven't found that to be at all beneficial. It doesn't seem to do it. My sense is that the review of the school and the review of the town is a different character. I think the budget, at least in my experience, the budget committees look at the school and the budget committees look at the town, is a bit different. I think it's more critical of the school, trying to find more ways to save money. But it hasn't been, if that is the case, it hasn't been successful. That third set of eyes looking over it, I don't think has produced any results at all, or very, very few results. And I think part of it's just attitude. I think as you go into it, I think there's a general belief that there's more opportunity to find monies in the school than there is in the towns. I would be of the hope, and maybe this is childish thinking, but I was of hope that one of the things the Budget Committee could do with 11 people with various backgrounds, various interests, could contribute to the budget and bring the expertise to the school and bring their expertise to the town and say, hey, here's some, have you thought about doing it this way? And I think some of that discussion comes up in the Budget Committee. And that, as I said, that may be a bit childish to think that that could be part of the role, but at least as I see it now, I don't think it's been particularly effective.
Well, there's two fundamental problems you run into. The first thing you confront when you're on the budget committee is there's relatively small fraction of the budget is discretionary that you have any control over. The teacher contract is set, and that's what it is. And the police union contract, for example, that spending is committed like any other contractual spending. So that's the first thing you run into, is you're dealing with a smaller piece of the pie going in. And then the other problem I think Al is dealing with is that the budget doesn't drive policy, policy drives the budget. So you want to change the budget, you got to change the policy. And that has to happen in the council chambers or in the school board chambers in the first instance. But I think it's a very good question to say, when's the last time a town budget failed? Can you remember?
I can't.
Well, not since I've been in town.
Answering that is the way they structured this default budget.
Right.
Is completely ridiculous. If you vote against the proposed budget, you're increasing the budget basically, because for the last several years, your default budget has been higher than your proposed budget, and that makes absolutely no sense. So if people want, I'm going to vote against this budget, I'm really voting for more money.
But doesn't that mean that the council and the school board are doing their job?
Well, either that or
yes, because he's on the council.
either that or the way the default budget has been put together. And I think that's something the Budget Committee ought to look at, is there's a new statute, whatever, that the Budget Committee will be putting together the default budget rather than the town administrator, whatever, and because there's a lot of argument of is this a one-time expense? No, there's so much. Well, we bought a truck this year, or we did this year, but let's continue and whatever, and that's a so really, who's going to vote against the budget if they're voting for more, if they want to spend less money, who's going to vote against the budget? If you're voting against it, it's to spend more money.
How is that a default budget?
Yeah, I don't want to get into too much of our own discussion while we still have public that wants to participate and while Ellen is here. Ellen, on behalf of the entire commission, we thank you for your service, because I think your job is harder than ours.
Oh, can I just make one more comment? I think
You can make as many comments as you want.
Al's point is good, and I think the best purpose of the budget committee is this next budget, the FY, the new budget coming along. And I think the budget committee has made some useful suggestions and can make useful suggestions. We've got a few more for this time around, because we've been through it we've been through it, so we can provide input. I think the confusing part is our role in the concluding year's budget, because we can start meeting in March after the election, and we're still in FY13. And then we've already approved the FY14, but what's our role in the FY14 budget? And I think that's where it gets a little confusing, and members, some members are really interested in it, so they want to ask questions, and that's totally fair. That's a role of the budget committee. So, but I think it can be a little confusing, particularly for new members. Like, okay, what are we supposed to be doing? I remember I had that question. Where do we fit into the process? And it'd be good to, I think, look at a little bit more about what the statute would allow in terms of guidance to the budget committee. I'm not clear on that. The attorneys at the municipal association would have to provide some guidance about, can you tell the budget committee, or put in a charter that the budget committee should focus on the new budget and not be involved in, I don't know.
I'm sorry. We've talked in the past a little bit about this concept of people running for office and offering some kind of training. What is, and you just kind of, reminded me of that. What training does the budget committee get? And what training is offered by LGC or NHMA or anybody else? Is it mandatory among your committee? Do you frown at each other if you don't go, or do people just show up?
No, we encourage people to go. They offer in September a full-day training. But we, and some people have gone to that in past years, but it's a full day. People that work have to take a full day out. I think the town will pay for your registration for that and take your travel. You still have to take a day off from work. So what we decided this year was, because they do a really good job of training, they are very good at it, they know the budget law inside and out, that we wanted to host one here in Newmarket because we had a bunch of new members. We had this charter commission going on and lots of stuff happening. We thought, let's host one here in Newmarket. We had to pay extra for that, thanks to Steve Fournier, who I think found the money somewhere to help us host that workshop, and it was very successful. We had a number of counselors, we had the entire budget committee, except somebody who was out of the country. We had townspeople, we had staff people from the town, and that goes back to my idea of this idea of community forums. They can be, whether they're workshops or educational or community forums, the idea that we host things in our community and can bring people in who can give us good information, and it could be 2 or 3 speakers or 1 speaker in this case, that's what it was. It gives us lots of good information, and then you can talk to each other while we're having the training and say, geez, I'm confused about that. And we just went through the training, and I'm still confused. It's complicated. It's not an easy thing to get your handles around.
Anyone else?
Just one other thing, I think to me, the primary issues that the budget committee does is on warrant articles. It does really put out various views when they do discuss warrant articles that I don't know when they would be distributed in that much as when you get 9-11 people talking about what's the issues with this warrant article, like I said.
Good, that's all helpful to me too, so thank you for your comments back.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry I took you way longer.
That's right.
Can I just say one thing, Ellen, about the community forums? I know.
We'll never get out.
I know. Sorry, I'm getting off the budget discussion, but about the community forums, because I think that that's a great idea, and I don't know that that's really a charter issue, and so I don't know how to make that happen. But if maybe it's a group of citizens who just forms their own group to make that happen. But I think that it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, my point was in saying that was that I don't think we can solve all of the issues that everyone is concerned about in Newmarket through the charter, and that there's a lot of other things we can do that won't cost any money, and community forums are incredibly easy to do. You just get some people speak, and you have the town hall, so it's really easy, and I'd be happy to help anybody who's interested in that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Rise the order of the chairman. I want to control 1 minute, 15 seconds, granted to me by Mr. Pickering. Commission rules.
I'm going to make my own rules. Does anybody else want to talk? I'm Mr. Allen, you know I'll let you speak again. There's no question about it.
Before you, let me put in a record on hers, or back to back with hers. I got 1 minute, 15 seconds to her budget. But she just held the floor for 20 minutes.
Hey, we all
I
spoke to
know,
her, and we're allowed
it's
to
a
do
budget
that.
discussion, I'd like to go
We make
with.
the rules, that's fine, thank you. Who else? Mr. Pickering, would you like to speak? Thank you. You're yielding a portion of your time to Mr. Allen?
I mean, if you'd rather have him do his thing first, that's fine with me.
I would like everybody to speak first, and then we'll go through the second time around.
Larry Pickering, 119 Ash Swamp Road. I'm here representing myself and no board. Just briefly, now that you're in the budget committee discussion, again, I'm representing myself. I think 11 people, way too many, probably at least by 8 too many. That's just my personal opinion, but I think the Budget Committee had a time and a place, and I'm not going to make any friends out there in TV land or with probably current Budget Committee members, but I find that it's like spinning wheels being on the Budget Committee. I mean, you talk about things, and I bring ideas forth, and you go to the deliberative session, and if any cuts were made, they are reinstated, and that happens every time that the budget is altered in any way. So you're right back to square one. You have pretty much the same budget as you started off with. So I think it's pretty ineffective, and at the minimum, I would recommend cutting a lot of people off the Budget Committee and drop the numbers. The more the merrier, but the more the ideas everyone has, and it just lengthens the meetings, and I don't see how much further you get at the end of the night, other than the clock is nearing midnight quite often. And it's a very lengthy process when you're involved in it. Anyways, that's not really why I came here tonight. Couple things. I certainly hope that you folks are not considering, I realize it's still early, but a town manager form of government. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Personally, I have known every single town administrator that we've had and hired in Newmarket. In my own personal opinion, and again, it's my own opinion, we've had more bad ones than good ones. Now, if you carried forth that, and I'm not including the current town administrator, he hasn't been here long enough, so he's not in my numbers that I've done tonight. And I think he hasn't been here long enough to pass judgment fully on him. I would hate to be in the same situation with a town manager who has more authority, and if we're in the same mode of hiring people that turn out to be duds, which we seem to have done a few times, I just don't think that's a good idea. Now, as far as the charter, your duties and why you're here, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the very reason that the Charter Commission was resurrected was the fact that the last town council had discussions through an efficiencies committee, of which I happen to have been a member and enjoyed it very much, although we spun our wheels quite a bit and didn't get a lot accomplished. That was pretty much what came out of the whole process of between council members serving on that efficiencies committee, was to resurrect the town charter commission and to take a look at how we can get control of our spending in Newmarket. And that's town spending, school spending. And that's the very reason why you folks were are sitting here now, as far as I can see. It went on to the ballot, the town council approved that idea. It went on to the ballot, the voters overwhelmingly supported that concept. And now I'm very anxious to hear about that possibility of, or at least another concept of a change in government. I know in the Efficiencies Committee, Bob Coffey and others did some pretty extensive work for charts as to what's going to happen in Newmarket with our current level of spending projected into the future and our needs and different things that were coming down the road. And that was a scary sight to see, but it was quite informative. We somehow have to gain control of the spending in Newmarket. We cannot stay on the same path that we're on now and survive as a community. Something will happen, and it's going to happen sooner than we think. And I hope I'm not scaring anyone out there in TV land, because again, it's my own personal opinion, but I have every copy of every single tax bill since I've lived in this town, and I think most of those of you folks sitting there probably also do also. Just take a look at them and you see what's happening. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg of where the real spending's about to happen in Newmarket, between the school and the dam and the wastewater treatment plant. We need to pay for the third water source. I realize that's in the process, but someone has to pay for that. And that won't be the end of the spending that's going to happen here in town. And it's a sad epitaph when a community, and I don't know how many others are like Newmarket, but when a community has as your largest employer, your school district, second largest employee in municipal system, we don't have an industrial park per se where we can expand. Black Bear is now history. There were major obstacles for making that happen, and I suspect if it could have happened, it would have happened, because there were a lot of minds working on that, but it didn't come to fruition. There must be another way to expand the tax base. I think the Economic Development Committee will be looking into that. This isn't the first time we've had an Economic Development Committee either, and good luck to these folks. I'm praying that something good will come out of it. But I just hope you folks are going to get into that conversation about a change in government. And again, my idea of a town manager, I don't think we should be doing that at all. Thank you.
Larry, if some of the commissioners have questions, would you be willing to answer them?
I'll try my best.
You've been here a long time, and you've served on a lot of the boards and committees and everything. I was curious as to what type of government you think would be best for the town.
Well, I personally think a Board of Selectmen did a pretty good job for about 250 years. But then we evolved from that. We had 3 selectmen, and then we had 5 selectmen. That didn't work. We had 5 selectmen with an administrative assistant. That didn't work. We changed the form of government to a town council form of government that we're in now, and we're discussing it, and still things are spiraling out of control tax-wise. So I guess we need to at least have the discussion. I'm not saying that the people, if you put it on the ballot, are going to vote for it, but that city form of government would be one, or I don't see where we're making big gains in a town council form of government to solve the solutions and keep the people here in Newmarket. I know people that have their homes on the market right now. A relative of mine recently sold his property here in Newmarket. It took quite a while, and he took a bloodbath to get out of here. Now, that's before all this future spending is going to come online. And something has to be done. Somebody has to make some tough decisions, and that certainly would be one of them, if you change that form of government to a city form of government.
Okay, all right, so you weren't saying selectmen, you said city form of government.
I'd go either way. But the only way we're going to get everything under one envelope, obviously, is to do the city form of government.
And then do not the townspeople lose control of everything? Then they have to trust in that city form of government. They don't have their annual meetings anymore or anything like that. I'm just asking, is that your understanding?
No, this is the debate I want to hear from you folks, because I believe that's why you folks have been put here. It's just a suggestion. I'd like to get that debate going out here on the table and for the audience and people out in TV land to chime in on that. If they don't like the idea, they're not going to buy into it, obviously. Selectman form of government was much simpler. I mean, you can make decisions and get things done. It takes forever to get anything done here in town. The bureaucracy that you're involved in, it just seems like it takes forever to get anything done. And that's about it.
So selectmen is down here and city is up here.
Yes, it
but
is.
Either one or the other is, you would think would be better.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Can the public address that
Nope.
question?
Nope. You can say something when your next turn comes up. Does anybody else from the public like to add? Yes, Mr. Levy. Thank you.
Good evening. Just some observations. Gary Levy, Smith Garrison Road, someday maybe New Road. I wanted to address some of the questions and statements that have been made by the Charter Commission. Give a little perspective as to why some of the things that have been brought up may have happened the way they've happened, and some observations. So, in no particular order, if you can appreciate that. Since the meetings tend to sort of go a little bit all over, I'm going to just be in no particular order.
We respect that.
With respect to the budget, by the way, I do think the nail was hit pretty hard on the head with the default budget being more than the budget. That's a pretty significant issue, and after having spent last year on the budget committee, it was pretty frustrating, going through all those hours and basically not having anything happen. Anyway, I took a bunch of statements and quotes that were made, attributed to no one in particular. There's been a fair amount of discussion regarding the Charter Commission wanting to try to address global issues like accountability, constituent participation, and town affordability. I'm not sure that that's really possible, or even, frankly, a mandate of the Charter Commission. I don't know how they're going to, or how you're going to ensure voter participation. It got me to looking online, and I saw all sorts of different types of charters and how they originated. And towns go from anywhere from 3 to 5% to 20%, give or take, as far as participation. I'm not sure the charter is really going to be able to address that, but that's just an observation. I also don't know how we're going to really address affordability within the charter. I don't really see that as being really part of the mandate. In the end, it's the elected officials, and this is just my opinion. I'm speaking for myself, by the way, not the council. It is the elected officials and the administrator and the school board, for that matter, and their superintendent, that will ultimately impact what our tax rate is and the affordability of this town. It doesn't really matter, from my perspective, whether we have selectmen, a council, a mayoral form of government. At the end of the day, it's going to be those people that are going to make those decisions. So whomever they are, that's what we're going to have. My one suggestion regarding what you folks are trying to assess is I think it would be a worthwhile endeavor for the Charter Commission to evaluate the different forms of government and assess each one's pros and cons and how they may address some of the concerns that you have been broaching at these meetings. And I now will transition to some of the issues that you've broached. And I'm not attributing it, like I said, to anybody in particular. I've heard comments made like the administrator has a budget and he should spend to it, as well as the council acting more like it's been acting more like a CEO and not a board of directors, and that we are too worried about having a surplus, and we should spend to the budget. Just for a little perspective on these different comments, my response is I think the budget is just what it is. It's a best guess. And I think as far as the council's concerned, we've been fairly reasonable as far as trying to address the needs of the town when they've been brought to us by the administrator and the different department heads. From a philosophical standpoint, I don't think it makes sense to spend all of the money. For example, if we don't have a heavy winter, clearly we don't need to spend the money on the salt and a lot of overtime for trucks and whatnot. If recreation doesn't have as much, or doesn't need as much staff because the campers are not as prominent as they may have been in the past or whatever, obviously they don't need to hire the staff. That's just my take on it. I would not spend to the budget just because in the end people are quite concerned about the tax rate, and I think the only reason to do that is if the money's needed. It's also been implied that the Durham Town Council follows their administrator's advice, and he makes the decisions, and the council sort of follows along. And so I watched a couple of their meetings. By the way, their tax rate is over $28 a thousand, I believe. After watching the meetings, they weren't really all that much different than Newmarket's. Basically, the councilors voiced their opinions. I thought one of the last ones I saw was they were talking about keeping the pool, which was quite controversial, meaning they didn't know if it's worth spending the money. They do ask Todd for questions to their answers to their questions, and ultimately, I don't think they just delegate the decisions to him and act as a board of directors. When I think of a board of directors, I think of a company like Berkshire Hathaway, and I personally don't think that that's what the town council should be acting as. At Berkshire, they have Warren Buffett running it, and that's great. Nothing against our administrators or past administrators, but I do think the council should have an active role in vetting spending, and I can give a couple of quick examples. When I got on the council, there was a proposal to renovate the town hall. It was almost $300,000 or plus. We tried to get a cost-benefit analysis. It took 4 meetings to get it. It ultimately was over 50 years to get to a break-even, and that's one small example of. I could give more, but I think it's sufficient to just. The point I'm making is I don't think it's a bad thing to have the council doing a little bit of oversight. I've also heard a lot of discussion about the council, and by the way, I'm not defensive about the council being critiqued. I think it's good to critique the council, but I think giving a little perspective could maybe help you folks when evaluating how we're doing and how the charter may affect, what form you want to ultimately decide on. One of the conversations was talking about how we spent a lot of time changing the direction of one-way streets, stop signs, things like that. Well, as I recall, that one-way street, we were asked to change to go up to toward the Stone Church. One meeting we went in, they said it wasn't a good thing to do because the plowing wouldn't work out very well. The next meeting, they said, no, it's okay. We got sort of conflicting information, which is one of the more frustrating things from my perspective, trying to get accurate information at times. And I'm not saying anyone in any way maliciously doesn't give us accurate information. They just may not have it at the time. But ultimately, that's what I think bogs the council down sometimes in making decisions. We were asked not long ago to okay a $40,000 truck that we were told would not pass inspection, and that was not that long ago. It turned out that that truck ultimately did pass inspection. So, you know, I do think having the council participate in some of these decisions is not something that should completely be ignored. I'm almost done, but can I be indulged for another second?
Of course.
I don't want to.
We've been very indulgent this evening. Why stop with you?
One of the other things that has been talked about is accountability. And I couldn't agree more. It's very, very hard to hold people accountable. Since I've been on the council, we've returned hundreds of thousands of dollars of impact fees that were for, obviously, property that was never expended. We've written off bills for campers that, in some cases, were several years old. At the last council meeting, we were told that money for the dam study that was a warrant article had not been encumbered. I'm not sure anybody up to this point has ever been really held accountable or written up or anything of that nature. When things happen ultimately like this, it's the taxpayers that end up paying. They're the ones that lose. And we sit there and really have our hands tied, and it is extremely frustrating. I don't have the answer to this, by the way, but I did want to at least try to address it. Because ultimately, it's the taxpayer that has to make up the difference for this stuff. What I might suggest is when you're looking at the charter, if you could possibly look at a way to make it easier to deal with these types of situations. The chief talked about all the years he's been here and has never been really evaluated or, you know, had a proper evaluation done. And I don't believe we've ever really terminated anyone. I've heard people say at the podium that if you have an administrator and they're not doing their job, it's the council's responsibility to just get rid of them. Well, that's much easier said than done. And from my perspective, it would take more than an act of Congress at this point. It's probably easier to address that with an administrator than a manager. And the RSA is pretty clear on that. But ultimately, we do have a contract with the administrator. I think we're working well with our present administrator. And I would like to continue to have that form of title. Not because of anything on a personal level, but rather I think long-term, as someone so eloquently said, our history has not been great in some of the past. The last thing I wanted to address is looking to the future. You know, a lot of things come up, and I think several of you have been on the council, so I think you probably get it. We ran this town, since I got on the council, without having a handbook. I asked about it at our first meeting. I think it's getting consummated right now. It's being finally gleaned by the attorney, and we should have it back. We're obviously working toward an economic development committee and trying to get something going there. The dam, again, we're trying to get the funding for that. The McIntosh well and the wastewater plant have just been addressed. So I really don't see, two other quick things. Plowing, we're looking to see if it makes sense to try to farm some of that out, do some in-house, some out. Recreation, we're looking at a revolving fund. I thought I'd bring these things up just because, you know, it's sort of been implied that there's no forward thinking. You know, it's difficult to go too far into the years. I mean, we could get projections as far as the pensions and whatnot from the state and how much money's going to dry up. I think we all know that we're not getting too much revenue from the state for the school, et cetera. So, you know, those are examples of our goals this year, because there were comments made that, you know, we really didn't have goals that addressed the future. But several of these goals or things that we're trying to do this year are doing just that. It's trying to address some of the future needs for the town and try to, you know, diversify our tax base. And anyway, I don't know how that all came out, but that's the best I can come up with for ad-libbing. I didn't want to sound defensive. I've watched a lot of the meetings. I think it would really be worthwhile to really evaluate, you know, try to determine what, I mean, we've heard it tonight. People are frustrated about the way the budget process works, whether it's 11 people, 5 people, 3 people, and then they go to a deliberative session. We took $80,000 out to cover non-union employees last year. It got put back in, end of story, and that was it. And if you voted against it, there would have been a higher budget. So I don't know that the Charter Committee or Commission can address that, but these are some of the issues that are quite frustrating to a lot of people in town, and to me in particular. So anyway.
Will you indulge us?
Any questions?
Some of us have
sure,
questions?
I'd be happy to, if anybody has any questions.
Are you here as the council chair?
Absolutely not. I'm here as a citizen. I shared examples. I could give you more.
Okay.
But I figured that was sufficient of you know, some of the frustrations that we have. And I don't think there's a magic bullet. I mean, you know, a mayoral form, a select form, or whether you keep the council, which I think, frankly, is working okay right now. In the end, it's the people that are going to make these decisions. That's it. You can have 3 selectmen, back to the days when it was easy to make decisions, Leo. You can have 5. You can have 7. If you have good people, you'll have it working well. If you don't, you won't. If you have a mayoral form and there's something that somebody wants to do that isn't making you happy, you're not going to be happy. So I don't think there's a magic bullet there. I think you folks have been searching for a way to, you know, address the elephant in the room, which, you know, I think you've brought up, Clay, a couple of times, and Tony's brought up regarding whether we go and put the budget under the council or you know, a mayoral form or a city form of government. I have my own opinions on that, but, you know, if you have any questions for me, I'll answer them honestly, but I'm not speaking for the council, I'm speaking for myself. So.
Again, I'll put it to you.
Sure.
What, in your opinion, then, just because you've taken an interest here in town,
Yeah.
what would you think would be, what do you feel would be a good form of government for the town of Newmarket?
I don't have any aversion to what we have now. I think the administrator is fine. I think the council should be making the final hires for department heads in conjunction with the administrator. That is one of my concerns about a town manager, because the manager hires all department heads, at least the way I read the RSA, sets their salary, and I don't think that's necessarily great. This is nothing about anybody who's in office now. This is about the long-term decision-making for the town. I don't think there's any magic bullets. I think we're working pretty well. You know, I hear a lot of negativity, and you know, we're going to have a surplus this year. With a little luck, the tax rate will be dropped a little bit. We'll see. I mean, it'll be debated. I have no idea how much is being added, you know, with the school. I think there's a little bit from the warrant articles last year. I can't tell you exactly the dollar amount, but that's out of our hands. I can only speak for the council. But if this commission could deal with the budget issue, about default budgets being higher than the budget's being presented, then I think you've earned your keep, because that is a bone of contention forever. And things cannot continue to just go up. So, that's my take.
Chris, you look like you're going to ask a question.
Nope.
Earlier in your comments, you mentioned something about a mandate for us. I am not aware of a mandate with respect.
What was the context, please?
I think you said something about that we have a mandate from the Efficiency Committee about trying to control costs or something? Is that?
No.
Okay.
No, let me read it. I can tell you exactly what I heard.
Okay.
This was at a meeting. These were quotes that I took from the meetings. It said, I said, there's been a fair amount of discussion about the Charter Commission addressing global issues like accountability, constituent participation, and affordability. That's what I brought up. And I was basically saying, or trying to say in as respectful a way as I could, I'm not sure that is really within the purview or even possible to achieve. You know, Mr. Jutton came, I think, one of your first meetings. I think it was the second one. He said, we've talked about doing a $500 fine, and I'm paraphrasing, and it was a long time ago, but test my memory. $500 fine on everybody's tax rate if they don't vote or sign up for a committee. It was something along those lines. Then within a few minutes after saying that, he said most people don't really have the ability or the knowledge to serve on certain committees. And who's going to fine people $500 for not voting? I mean, with all due respect. So I don't know that, I think it's nice, I think it would be great if people were more interested, more people voted, but frankly, I do not think that that has anything to do with the charter. If I'm wrong, so be it. But I don't, as I did some research on charters, participation from the constituency is not something I think that you can really control or address. I think you can address the form of government, and that's why I'm suggesting that maybe somebody comes in here or someone should come here, give a quick and dirty pluses and minuses, pros and cons of we already know with the selectmen how that worked out. So it worked, it didn't work. Council works, it doesn't work. You know, we haven't gone to a mayoral form or a city form. I think that has plenty of pros and cons. But at the end of the day, I think that's more what this is supposed to be about. At least that was my perception. If I'm wrong, that's just because I
was more interested in the term mandate, because that was the first time I've heard that we've had a mandate.
No, then maybe I misspoke.
Nobody heard that
maybe.
word?
No, he said it, but I think you misunderstood the context he was using it in.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, the context was when you guys were talking about, by the way, they're all quite admirable. You know, I think it's great. I'd like to give everybody $5 back this year on their tax rate, but I don't think those things can be addressed, you know?
Yeah,
even looking into the future, you know, and getting a handle on where our tax rate's going to go. I don't know that the charter can really address that.
No, just to clarify the point, I don't think this commission thinks that we can directly address it. I think the heart of our debate over the last few months has been what structural issues are in the charter that prevents us from amplifying those goals. And so that's really what we're looking at. I don't think we're confused about the fact that we're going to get everybody to come out and vote. I think what we're saying is, what in our charter can we change to enhance the probability that people will vote? Is there a form of government? Why is nobody coming to the deliberative session? You know, are we trying to make up for public participation by putting 300 people on the budget committee? I mean, these are the kind of things I think we're talking about.
The only answer I can get, and that, like I
I'm
said,
just telling
that's
you,
admirable.
we don't have the answer.
The only thing I can say is, when I did my, quick and dirty research on charter commissions, I didn't realize they started back in medieval times, frankly. But they did, apparently.
They haven't improved much.
I guess it was to, keep the serfs away from the king or whatever. But in the end, I don't think there's one form over the other that has a whole lot more voter participation. I mean, you guys can do that research or get that answer, but I think we're running at about 15 to 20% voter participation, which I think is on the higher end of the average. So, I think people in Newmarket are pretty focused. The people that are interested, you hear from them. We certainly hear from them on the council. I don't think that's our biggest problem, personally. I mean, would it be better? Maybe, but, in the end, I think there's a lot of people that do care about the town that are engaged. I think we have challenges like every town. But, when I hear Durham is basically handing the keys over to Todd, I don't think that's accurate. I think every council, oversees what the administrator or the manager does. And, and I think that oversight's important. I think it's imperative, as a matter of fact. So, anyway, I didn't mean to take so much time.
No, we're breaking every rule in the books when it.
I was just, that's fine, fine. I just was going to help or add something to what you said. Is it possible you were referring to what Mr. Pickering said about the Efficiency Committee?
Maybe that was it.
And how that's what the Charter Commission was possibly formed for, was to listen to the things the Efficiency Committee had.
Thank you.
And yes, that's what I was
Maybe.
thinking.
I'm sorry, Larry, I forgot to ask you that.
If you guys could address accountability somehow, meaning, make, that I think you can address. How to, and I don't want to go on anymore, but I'll just make it very brief. It's very hard if there are concerns from people. It feels like it's one extreme to the other. You either have to call this big special meeting that's this, ooh, we're going to take, the administrator or this or that to the, woodshed type of thing, which I'm averse to. I don't, it seems like it's all or nothing. And I don't know, accountability was brought up by the chief. I think I just brought up 3 things where we gave back hundreds of thousands of dollars. It made me ill. And no one was even written up. Think about that. Now, I don't know if that's within the purview of the charter, but there ought to be some provision in there for that, somehow, for accountability. But, I'm not on the commission.
So before Leo asks the last question, the handbook interests me. We've talked a lot about trying to get officials trained or provide that, whether the charter can provide a structure for asking commissions, if you're elected to a commission, to train. What is the handbook that you were talking about, and what's
personnel handbook. When I got on the council, we had a handbook that was out of compliance with state law.
Town employees.
Okay, so do you have a handbook, like how to be a counselor?
No, excuse me.
Well, all right,
Personnel,
so-
I'm sorry, personnel handbook.
All right,
In other words, the
okay,
town was
personnel handbook.
operating,
Is there a handbook, how to be a counselor?
No,
Should there be?
he's talking about something more important.
I'm talking about something different. No, I don't think he is talking about, I think I'm talking about something more important. We talked a lot about trying to get town officials to understand what their roles and responsibilities are. Ellen talked about it. My question to you is there some kind of training session for town councilors? You have a lot of responsibility, and day one you show up. Mr. Pickering luckily has been on the council before, but do you think you got information? Do we provide information to our councilors to help them?
I can only speak for myself. The first main issue that I dealt with on the council that I recall that had a financial issue was the one I brought up about redoing the town hall. I thought the answers we got were not good. 4 meetings, whether it was the propane, for the truck. I mean, one day someone comes in and says the propane is fine, it's covered in the warranty, chief says it isn't. We get so much conflicting information. I was talking to one of the members of the Charter Commission, it kind of off the cuff, talking about trying to get the straight scoop, and they said, boy, you got that right, and it's frustrating. I would, it's, and I don't think it's purposeful, but we can't always get, well, you're looking at a little perplexed.
You're not listening to my question.
Your question to me is, when I started, I guess you're saying, did I know what I was doing when I got
No, that's not my question. My question
was,
is, do you think the town provides sufficient training for board members when they take office? And let's take the council out of it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the planning board and the zoning board of adjustment. The zoning board of adjustment is an adjudicatory board that has a great deal of responsibility. If a new member is elected to the board, do we as a town provide them with training? And if not, should we?
Yes, you should. I don't know that in my particular, I can only speak for myself, I didn't feel that when I was on the council that I needed 2 years to get up to speed, personally. I'd been on enough boards, I kind of understood the process up to a point, and I did the best I could, and I think I've done as well as I can do. Would more training help? I watched the budget, committee meeting the other night when the woman came down. I think it was from the LGC, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be. I think she did an admirable job downstairs. It was well attended. I think that type of thing is great. I don't want to speak ill of any boards in town or say people are, prepared or not. I can't really speak to planning and ZBA and this and that. I can only speak from my experience on the council. We were provided a bunch of dates for meetings that we could go to. It was helpful to have it, in town, this last one. I think that would be a better question to ask the budget committee. Did they, get?
I did.
Yeah, and they obviously seemed happy with it.
Okay.
So-
Anyone else?
Yes.
Leo,
I-
sorry. Yeah. you
I
were
guess
first.
we're delving into this water and sewer and village district type
Yes.
units. In my opinion, we have this continual turnover of council and whatever, and you people are being asked to make decisions, bang, bang, on water and sewer issues, and none of you have any background or whatever on it. And prior to this council form of government, we had a water boards and sewer boards that had 50, 60, 70 years' experience, so when thing was brought to them, they knew as much or more about it than
Mhm.
the supervisor or whatever. And I have an issue right now, you have an issue with water, sewer. The water superintendent comes up with town engineer and says, okay, this, and we want to spend this, and you're asked to make a decision on it, and I do not feel that the council has the background or whatever to make that decision on it.
So give me a question.
And so the question we're talking about is going back to a water district and going back to what we had previously, where a board of water commissioners, a sewer commissioners, a joint commission that would have experience, and the issue would be decided by them, right? And once they have the experience, like previously, the sewer commissioners had 50 years of experience on it, and the water commissioners had 70, 80 years experience. When they get an issue like that, they know the questions to ask and can do it, and I just...
So the only way I can respond to that, and I don't disagree with you, I'm certainly no water expert. I think some people on the council may have a little bit more background than others, but I generally agree with your point. We have to get up to speed. When it was when they had the water commission, et cetera, did only people that were on water and sewer vote?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
that's
okay.
the issue
So
of
my
going
own, okay, I get it.
with a water district. It would be, on water issues, it'd be only the people who are on water or sewer would be voting on these issues.
So in general, I would be in favor, that's two issues, and I'll just address them and then I'll run. The first one is, as far as having a knowledge on every issue, because water and sewer is the one you just brought up, we could go on to a lot of issues, whether it's, paving, when to do the roads, how much to replace a building, whether we should replace a vehicle. So there's a lot of things that obviously come to the council that everybody isn't an expert on, but I think in general, we've made reasonably good decisions. With respect to the water, I would be totally in support of seeing the people that are ratepayers getting, they being the people that vote on it and having a water a commission or a board. Is that an elected board, by the way?
It could be. It normally is, but it doesn't, it could be
I would be
appointed board.
I would be in favor of that, and probably be in favor of them being elected, just so it does not become a cabal. But that's just without having any more information, that's my quickest answer I can give you under the circumstances. So I hope I didn't admit to anything
Mr. Levy, thank you for your
too
time.
incriminating. Anyway, thank you for indulging me.
Thank you for coming.
Very seldom I'll be the least talkative in a room, but John Bentley, 14 Grant Road. I'm going to speak as a citizen, but I'm also going to have to bring up a couple things as my position in the council. First, I want to thank you all for what you're doing. I think it's very important for our town, and it's certainly a hapless job. If you get any hate mail like I got last week, I hope they spell your last name right, because they didn't spell mine right. There was interesting discussion about the budget committee. I think you could wrap in the CIP process part of it too, but I don't know, like in the notes from last week's meeting, I had read about, you guys asked Steve about his position and how it stands with the charter, and they're going to ask current and past councilors. I think you could do the same with the budget committee. You know, ask them what frustrates them, ask current members, ask past members. You certainly have enough people, department heads that have been here a long time now, the Chief Pulaski and Hilton, that have done budgets. I mean, you could ask them what frustrates them with the process. I know my first year in the council, this being my fourth, it seemed like they came before us several times up here, downstairs, and it seemed like a real long process. It's certainly good to have checks and balances, but in my opinion, the town administrator and the department head should be keeping a pretty lean budget anyway, which I think we have some that absolutely have in the past, and some that could probably do a little better. I don't know what form of government's best. I've been trying to learn a little bit about all of them, just my gut, because I think Mr. Huggins may ask. I think 3 would be too few, because you could get the buddy system too easily, I think. I'm a little skeptical there. I think Manchester is alderman, or one of them is alderman, have 15. That seems like way too many. I don't know if we could do that. I don't know enough about it. I don't know if the current process works or doesn't work, but I will agree with Mr. Pickering spoke earlier. I know when this first came out for the vote, a lot of the people that talked to me was more of the financial, why they wanted this commission. The people that just spoke to me were to see how we could have the town do better financially. This commission somehow could overlook at the process and see what we could do. I know I asked Steve, and I didn't realize he was going to be here tonight, and I'll certainly speak to him. And I asked Clay when Clay became before us, I said, is it clear to you folks what you're doing, and could we have a mission statement? And I've had quite an interesting month, and I haven't watched as many meetings and been up, but I don't know if that ever came out, like what the purpose is. Because even when people, what I said pretty close to exactly that night was that it was obviously confusing, because even some of the people that ran said, I'm going to run and I'm going to get business in the town, and I'm going to run and I'm going to, and that's not what I understood and the things that I read what the Charter Commission does. So I guess I'm not even sure. We just asked, is there a book on being counselors? No, there isn't. I learned by trial and error. I was given 3 or 4 months into it, a book this big on Robert's Rules. It's great to show you procedurally how to do, but I think it'd be a great idea to have some training on any board or any commission. There's a lot that comes at you, and it took me certainly a year to really feel confident what I was doing. And anyway, one thing that I always wanted to change on the charter, it was on my goals 2 or 3 years in a row, was I call it the Dan Dickens rule. And part of the reason we have such turnover, I believe, is, Dan was a counselor. That's how I ended up with a weird year of counseling, and because he was getting money from the fire department, and that year there was a lot of calls, he got some type of a stipend. And I think it's unfortunate that if someone counted votes at the polls one night and got $20 by the charter, they cannot hold any position. And I think there's a lot of good people out there that could maybe help the town, whether it's as a counselor or as another board. But once they receive any, and I understand it, I get it, but maybe there's an amount, maybe if it's over 5,000, or maybe if it's over 10,000, or whatever it is, but I think we're going to lose and have lost good people because that's in there, and they can't be on anything. So if you can do anything else, if someone could look into that and see if that isn't maybe archaic or not needed, or if we could have some type of a cap on it. Because unless you're retired or independently wealthy, I don't think people are certainly running on these boards for the money, but when you're told you can't run because you've made $20 from the town, seems silly. But lastly, what I want to address is, reading some of the minutes and seeing some of the meetings was, and Gary just touched on some of it, is the feeling that maybe the current system doesn't work because we take forever, or we get our hands in things we shouldn't, or we drag our feet. Probably things never happen as fast as the people that wanted to happen, but just in the last couple of years, and just this year, we've had some pretty huge things that happened. I think they took some time, but I think they were really, really important decisions. One being the town administrator search, and we had a search committee, and it went on and seemed, probably seemed like it went on a lot longer than it should, but it was an important decision. We've made some mistakes in the past, I think, and it's certainly nothing we want to do again. We just got done the sewer and water process, which is a lengthy process. But I think we had to take the time to educate ourselves and see which firm was best to come in and do it, and to educate the people. We just changed our lawyers. That seemed like maybe to some apparently longer than what it should have been, and then more recently the zoning, which is certainly a very big and passionate issue for people, but I think it was a really important one to take the time to do. And the reason I'm addressing it now, because I addressed it at a council meeting the other night, using that as an example that, maybe it seems like we're dragging feet, but when you don't look and do your due diligence, you get one group yelling at you, and when you do, you have another group. So I don't know what the best system is. I think there's a lot of people on all the departments, and certainly in the council, that believe they have the best interest of the town. We might not all agree. We agree to disagree, but I just want to state that whether it's a 3-person or 15-person, you're going to only be as good as the people that are on there anyway. And also, some of these things do take time, and I would hope that, we have a lot of department heads that have been here a long time. I would hope that they would talk to us freely. I would hope they talk to Steve freely and say, this seems cumbersome, or this seems wrong. Like I said, I know the first year, and it doesn't seem like the other years was bad, that first year budget thing, maybe it's because I was new, but it just seemed like Chief came before us 3 or 4 different times, and just seemed really long. But anyway, I just wanted to say a couple of things, but remember the first thing I said was thank you all, because it's a lot of work, but it's a really, really important thing facing us. And I wanted to reiterate that I agreed with Mr. Pickering that a lot of people, when they talked to me when it was happening, and then since it started, were wondering how this group could look at the form of government, but really look at it to see how we could save. And I don't know what the answer is, whether it's a mayor or 17 people or 20 people or, whatever it is. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any
Wait.
questions?
A question.
Mr.
I just ordered
Well,
a
I
pizza, I need
guess
to go.
your view on, do you think everyone should be voting on water and sewer issues, or just the people who are paying for it?
I think it would have solved, it's come up to me, I've had some spirited debates on it. I think it would have solved, I think we would have had the water line put in last year instead of this year if that were the case. But people that their taxes weren't affected, their rates weren't going to be affected, voted no because people told them to. I think it's probably a good idea. My gut is that.
Do you think people that aren't on the water and sewer system are more apt to vote for an expenditure than against an expenditure for water and sewer?
I don't think they should even vote.
Huh?
I don't think they should even
No,
vote.
I realize that, but I guess I'm questioning in the past whether you think.
Well, I think a lot of them voted no when it wasn't going to touch them, when we wanted to put the water line in last year. And I think that cost the town a lot of time and money. Kind of like what someone brought up earlier, what you brought up, and then someone else spoke. 311 people, I think, voted last year for the default budget, which, to your point, 311 people, because a couple of people made editorials, and a couple of people had signs that said, vote no on the budget. So those 311 people want us to spend more money. So I think my gut is that the water and sewer might be the way to go, a commission. I don't know enough about it, I'm not an expert on it. I'm on one and not the other, so I'm on water, but I have my own sewer, so I guess I'll be thrown in that mess too. But anyone else? Anything else?
One of the issues that's come up is the concern that the town council turnover. The fact that institutional knowledge sometimes gets left behind, and new members on the council ask the question that was asked 3 years ago, 6 years ago, and 8 years ago, and was answered. And I happen to think that that institutional knowledge is important. And I'd like to get your comment on that. And number two, if you think it's important that there be some kind of, that there be less turnover, do you have any suggestions on how we might accommodate town councilors so there isn't as much turnover?
The easy answer is to pay more, and I hope that never happens. I see that Londonderry are paying them $7,500, and you can make a case that people are actually doing it for the money. I don't know what the answer to that is. I think there is a lot of tribal knowledge. When I got here, it took me a year to understand black bear. You know, I was asking all the senior members that had dealt with it, and I don't know how you ever get away from that. It's to do it and do it well, and there's some that have done it well and will continue to, and some that, you know, just probably like you folks, but I'm not sure that the average citizen knows the amount of time put in. Certainly some of you currently and in the past have been on, but the calls and the emails and being grabbed in the, at Market Basket or down at, downtown at the fest, and people talking and asking questions and emailing you and calling you. It's a lot of work, and it takes a real lot. There's people that have done it, this is my 4th year, and there's people who've done it a lot longer than that, and my hat goes off to them, because it's tiring and burnout. I don't know what the answer is. I'll think about it, and if I ever come up with anything, I'll tell everyone in the world, because it does take you some time to get up to speed, and it would be great not to have the turnover. But it's frustrating, again, because half will yell at you for doing something. I just had a discussion about the Newfields issue, so there's 3 selectmen there, is that correct?
Yes.
And so they wanted to look into Newmarket or Stratham patrolling them, and this was from some Newfields residents I was talking to, and some are very mad at the selectmen that they even dare thought of that, and others are real happy that they're at least trying to save money, and that's what we're against, and that's what, any board or any commission is. Some people are going to be happy and think we took too long on some of these things, and others think we don't take long enough on other items, but I don't know what the answer is. Turnover certainly hurts, just like in a company. You're retraining and taking time and getting people up to speed, and I think the training's a great idea. I had no training. It's trial by error, and a couple of people tell you this, and even sometimes they get told conflicting things, and Fred said this and Mary said this, so it's like.
Have you guys ever even gotten like a document or anything on 91A, the right to know law, as counselors?
Oh, we've got explanations paper. Yeah.
Okay.
Not like
and I will say, we've had things sent to us on seminars, but again, a lot of them are during the day.
Yeah.
And unless you're independently wealthy or retired, it's like, I'm down in Mass, and I know I can't go to Concord, or I can't go to this seminar for a day. I wish, maybe if there were night ones, and I don't want to say give up your Saturdays, but I think training would be a great thing for any board.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Allen?
Bring your attention back to budget. Remember the letter that I drafted to you that listed 7 items to you? The first 1 and 2 was line item veto power for council members on all budget and town ordinances and fees. And number 2, adopt a tax cap under provision RSA 32.5. We sit here and argued about the budget committee and the waste of time that I know that directors have putting together the budget. They must come back in front of the budget committee and waste their time and again for a month at a time in advance that we hire, no departments named. It would make sense to adopt the tax cap, because then you could project out your 6 to 10 years that you want to project out, especially when we're running surpluses right now. And you'd eliminate budgetary board, roll them into a efficiency budget board with the school. And there's a lot of talk here on the changing gears from the budgetary to the thought of selectmen and what have you. What we have is a hybrid council, And we have more closer administrative, if you look under laws, we have administrative czar. New meaning you probably haven't come up with or looked in your law definition books of. What he's tasked with are outside of administrative jobs to do. It's not a manager's job, not an administrative job, it's a mix. So he's an administrative czar. He's in a form of putting our government back together again. So you call him administrative czar. He's hired by the council, just like the chief here, was hired by council members, not the administrator. That's why the council members should do the hiring of your administrators. We have a hybrid council. So there's no fight about selectmen. They're at the same level as the selectmen. It's just a modern way of an outdated thought process. We touched on the problem of collective bargaining units. The problem with collective bargaining units is when they work. I really hate to pick out police departments or fire departments or AFL-CIO, is they're all a group. If the chief commissioner or administrators make a ruling against their employees, they all seem to get sick. And you have to see the administrator running around doing their job. They don't have the power that they need. So without your help in putting in the rule, they really don't have much power against a second in charge. So if a second in charge in a department goes and creates problems, there's no way for the person who's in charge in departments right in our own town would be able to administrate the problem because the way the collective bargaining units work. They just call a sick call, or they'll call, if you punish them, they don't go out for 4 hours, they get administrative days pay if they come in for 1 hour. We pay the price to discipline them, the taxpayer. Next to impossible to get rid of them once they're in collective bargaining stage or they've got tenure, no matter what they do. Just had to bring that to your fact. That's one of the problems when we're doing with collective bargaining contracts. That's why that line item veto is so key to what is needed. When that 80,000 was voted on, usually it's a check and balance of your executive power, which is your council members. Okay, they do this to you, they can reach in, they don't have, it can't be a 5-2. It's got to be a 6, almost a full count. It has to have a supermajority to win the vote. They can declare a veto. They're going to declare a veto on it, and they can overrule that vote and go right in and change it and still save the 80,000 for the taxpayers. But this council doesn't have veto power. It also doesn't have a tax cap to force the school to come back at us with the budgets. If they knew they were a tax cap, they would do other things to cut their budgets. We don't have a tax cap like Dover. It's not a form that, it's not city or urban. Both town and city can have a tax cap under 32.5. Why don't we have it? All you do is add it in. Simple 2-sentence, tax cap. People don't like it. You want people to show up? Believe me, property owners will show up for that vote for once. You'll see how many come out. You dare put the 32.5 in and make a tax cap? No budget committee needed, because you know exactly what your budget's going to be for the next 10 years. If you want it increased, you put a layer in it, the public can vote it back in by a certain majority. They come out to the polls and they vote back in, take away the tax cap for 3 years, once you get to a certain point. But it makes entities that you have no control on them, control themselves, because it carries with the laws, the RSA laws, over to them. Just a himful thing. Now, Mr. Fillion wants his water and sewer districts. Those people vote. they vote in a 501c. Same thing UNH is a 501c3. They can put gas lines clear across the state of New Hampshire from 2 different counties because they're a 501c with the exemptions. Yet their budget is their budget. They're not controlled by legislative, even though they're governed legislatively up here. They put together their own budget, yet they come underneath. It's the one exemption can work with government. Everybody that's on the 501c votes. If you pay that user's fee, you vote. Doesn't matter if you're out of town, you own that piece of land, you vote. Food for thought, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Pickering?
Very quick.
Okay.
You asked the question if the council gets any legal advice or whatever at the beginning, new council
Yeah, like
is...
training or any kind of help at the beginning of the process.
Well, I've served, this is my 3rd term, not consecutive, but 2 of the 3 terms, we've brought in legal counsel at the beginning of the new council to let us know what the laws are and what we can and can't do. So that was quite helpful, and I know other councils have done the same thing. And it's an option that can be used. Of course, a bill comes with it. They're not going to come over here for free. And back to Mr. Allen's mentioning of tax cap. Newmarket did that once. Actually, I was part of that. Hard to believe, isn't it? 1980, we drew 400 people out at the district meetings. Just to let you know, it does draw people out, but whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickering. Anyone else? One member of the public who's not going to say anything. Going once? Great. Thank you all for your participation, and those of you that have left. Let us move on with the agenda. The next item is the minutes from July 22nd, 2013. I understand that we still don't have even though the minutes have been done, they haven't been circulated to everybody for July 8th. I'll talk to Steve tomorrow, and we'll get those sent out, and we'll review them at the next meeting. Anybody have any changes or questions on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the Charter Commission minutes, July 22nd, 2013.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Any discussion or any changes? Mr. Hawkins moved, or I'm sorry, Mr. Zink moved, Mr. Hawkins seconded. No discussion?
Gold Dust Twins.
Pardon me?
Gold Dust Twins.
Yes, the gold. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. One thing I forgot to put on the agenda was Leo sent out his questionnaire. Leo, do you mind going over that with us right now? Should we talk about it?
Bring it up.
I'm sorry. I'm totally sorry I left it off the agenda.
Comments on it, added a few things to it, and I was thinking basically
These are my red lines.
it's worth emailing it to previous councilors that have the emails rather than going through a letter process, whatever, that would be better.
Okay.
And I was thinking whether we ought to, previous 10 years councilors, or how far back we want to go. 10 years seem adequate, or?
And Chris, you also had some comments on it too, right?
Yeah, I redlined some questions that make it a little more open-ended from my point of view. And I've just tossed out what I thought were some pretty good questions.
Mr. Chair, could I just interject?
Yes.
I did not get a copy of this. I didn't get a copy of the minutes. So this is really hard to participate when.
You mean the July 22nd minutes?
I didn't get, I've never seen this.
I just do reply.
Hey, all right.
We talked about this last time.
Yeah, and I thought, all right. We got to get an email situation dealt with then. I apologize. I try to glance at the list, and when it looks as long as I do, I guess I don't meticulously go through and make sure that everybody is on the list. Did anybody else not get the questionnaire?
I printed it off the town website today.
Yeah, and then
It didn't come to me, but I went into the town website on
Oh, wait a minute.
What, we're talking about two different things?
I got Leo's list,
I got it.
I got Leo's list.
I hit reply all.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of comments and then hit reply all and shot it out that way.
I got Leo's list twice.
Yeah.
I'm under the assumption that his email's probably typed wrong.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
I'm having a
and
feeling
Ellen
that-
never got it, who's recording our, so we gotta fix
There's
this.
something screwy going on.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk.
Gremlins.
It must be Donna. She must have screwed it up right before she left. I will talk to Steve tomorrow.
No one is
and we
being
will send
deliberately
out a couple-
withheld from the list.
I know. I don't think that anything.
Get this
super-
weird
Except
feeling.
It's with me. Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
Let's go over the questionnaire anyway, and we'll deal with the email thing tomorrow morning. Sorry, Al.
That's okay.
oh,
You have the floor.
yeah, people haven't seen it, so Leo had some good questions. I just really added and supplemented some questions, and he had a really lengthy thing in the back. I don't know if it was a question, but it was a point about what he wants to do with the water and sewer, which is, I just, that's a piece of advocacy in my view. I just suggested open-ended questions like Leo suggested, where did you find most enjoyable? Where did you find least enjoyable? Excellent questions. I added things like, how many hours a week do you spend on town council business? How many subcommittees do you sit on as a councilor? Usually it's 2 or 3. I mean, so how many hours a week do you spend in each subcommittee that you sit on? Do you believe it's necessary for a council member to serve on each of those subcommittees? Have you served more than one term on the council? And if not, why not? Do you believe the town would benefit if town councilors served more than one term? And if so, what would the benefit be? Have you served on other town boards or committees? If someone wanted to get involved in town government, how would you advise them to start? I think it's a pretty good question. My personal vote is Budget Committee. I think Budget Committee is a great training ground for people who want to get involved. Are there changes that could be made to make the town council more enjoyable? And if so, what are they? If you could change one thing about the way council operates, what would it be, aside from put Clay in charge? Are there changes that could be made to make the town council operate more efficiently? And if so, what are they? Are there changes that could be made to help town government as a whole operate more efficiently? And if so, what are they? Would you have benefited from seminars or presentations on your role of a town councilor? We've gone over that. What would you like, I suppose you could say, what would you like more training on? What role does the charter play in the way you perform your job as a councilor? Do you consult the charter before you make significant decisions? What use are frontline councilors making of the charter in the way they go about doing their jobs? I think that's a good question. And are there any changes to the charter? This is Leo's question. Any charter changes you think would make your duties less cumbersome, more enjoyable, or help you to operate more efficiently?
So I think that's a great way to reframe some of the questions and keep the intent. My ultimate question here is in deference to the fact that not everybody is getting it is, how does everybody feel about postponing this final decision another 2 weeks so that Al and everybody gets a chance to look at this, or do we need to get it out in the next 2 weeks?
I think it's more efficient if we cut Al out of the process entirely.
Well, that goes without saying, but I'm just kidding.
That's so teasing.
That's very hurtful. I mean, they're right on.
Okay.
Oh, let's move ahead. I think they're all really good questions.
Bill?
Yeah, I would say that it's not just efficiently, but it's effectively town government, the questions. I would love to have effective and efficient in there, because I think they're sometimes used transposable and they're not.
You just got to be that way, don't you?
I know.
Yeah.
I think it should be clear that the amount of time and preparation for meetings is not just preparations for meetings, but it's communication with residents.
Oh, yeah.
There's a chunk of time that you're spending just talking about town stuff during the week.
It's open-ended. How much time do you spend on town council
Town
business?
council business, okay, that's good. And
What would you estimate, Phil?
the last one, how much do I
10 to
spend?
15 hours?
It depends on the week, depends on what's going on. There's some meetings where it's spending 10 hours, there's some where you're spending a lot more talking to people and reading, they're like 20.
That's a
So,
lot.
I'm sure these guys could give you their estimates too, probably somewhere ballpark, right around. And I'll say this, Deputy Gary, being chair is significantly more time consuming than just sitting on the council. It is, you feel like you get your life back when you sit. You're on your chair, so.
But you get so much affection.
I know, exactly. So So yeah, so I would say the chair consistently spends 20 hours a week. Easy. The other thing is the questions are all great, but are there so many that we're going to drive people? My concern with surveys is always keeping it brief enough that you're going to not make it seem intimidating, like it's going to take 20 hours to fill the responses out.
Some of these things can be consolidated, sure.
I think they're very thoughtful, though, because I think anybody that has served in there, these
Is
are
gonna do it,
all
that's
very important. Every single question in there was really a good one.
And the audience
I
was
don't think
considered
he'll mind
to run.
No.
Yeah.
He'll enjoy it.
Just ignore the ones that don't want to
Elaborate answers, no? Some of them.
No, I think
yes
it's,
or
I think
no, or-
it's very well done. Yeah.
Great.
Great.
So
What's the next
What
step?
do you want me to do with this?
I think you should, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how far back are we going?
10 years is what Leo
Well,
was
I'm
suggesting. Threw it out.
questioning, that, I'm asking the question, how far back should we go? I mean, you got a lot of counselors, whatever, and I don't know.
Do we have a list of everybody who served in the council? Some of these people are gone from town.
Yeah, I'm
Well, I'm sure the town, they have all emails of all these, and that's why I thought it'd be easier doing emails rather than sending out letters and everything.
Whether it's 5 years or 10 years is not even worth discussing. Send it to every town councilor, anybody you can find who ever served.
Yeah.
Let them ignore it or answer it.
My question would be how far back can we go easily to pull up email addresses, and how far back does it become, we didn't use email in 1998?
Yeah, that 10 number sounds like a good one to me.
That's a good arbitrary
good-
number.
yeah.
If you have their emails, you have them.
Can't go back further than the internet.
As good as any number you can think of.
Yeah. Okay.
all right, so,
So I'll add, what years did you serve in the town council?
okay, so you want to make the edits you got and send it back to Leo, and then do you want me to send it out as chair and say, you
Well,
know,
I didn't know, I thought.
Sit down with
the-
Steve?
The town administrator would
Get
get
him to
all
do it?
the addresses, they would have probably more access, so I guess you can get them on all your town reports have, from recent years anyways, they had all the town councilors and their email address on that, I don't know how far back that goes.
And then Clay, next question is, what do you do with the responses?
give them to you?
What I'm going to
Didn't you-
propose
didn't
is
you
give them to
volunteer
me, and I will compile them,
Okay.
and collate them,
Sounds perfect to me.
Do content analysis on it.
Yeah.
and do big data analysis.
No editing.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to be compiled.
All right, great. So
not
you're gonna
structuring
give, respecting Leo's original authorship, you'll give your comments to Leo, and then Leo will take the final draft from you and give it to Steve and try and get this out?
If he wants to do it directly to you, I have no problem.
All right.
I'll do
Let's
this
just get
first
it
thing
out this
tomorrow.
week.
I'll send it to you. If you're happy, you send it to Steve and say, Steve, make it happen.
All right, and what I will do is send out an email to all of you and say, this is the new list. Please hit reply all on
Except
this
Al.
list. Except Al.
Be
And
consistent.
if I don't get a response from you guys by the end of the day, I'm calling you and saying, I sent you an email, I want to make sure that you're on the list and it's correct. All right? I got plenty of time between 5 and 7 tomorrow.
AM or PM?
PM.
I don't know who it is.
I will be sleeping from 5 to 7, I hope. I hate to move the agenda around, but I thought, given that, it kind of blends into some of the stuff Tony is, you want to talk about the website, Tony, our website?
Sure.
Because could that be a means maybe by which we solve all this issue as well? We have data on our website?
Is this the little link you sent us
It
that I
is.
couldn't get into?
You
For
couldn't?
some unknown reason, yeah.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm not either.
Okay.
I have to go to the bathroom really bad, and I'm just trying to talk. Can you run the meeting for a few minutes?
Sure.
Thanks.
So tell us website about
The website.
So at the last meeting, I'll just talk about that. At the last meeting, we talked about improving communications and just what we could do to get the information out to residents, our information. So I did a few things, and one was I started a website, so I sent the link out to everyone, and I did go ahead and purchase the domain name. It was under $20. I hadn't heard back, and it was time was of the essence, so I went ahead and did that, and that's fine. So we did that. It's still a little light on content. It's in the beginning, I mean, it's new, so there's a lot of information that I think that can go on there. And I looked at Merrimack's that was, because they had their own website. And separate from the town website, which I think is important. I don't know if every board and every commission in Newmarket should have its own website. It could get pretty cumbersome. But I do think that this one is separate from the town administration, so it sort of needed to have its own. At least I've gotten that feeling anyway from Steve, that he only wants to be so involved. So, so there was that. There was the newsletter, which it's just a pretty simple flyer. I would hesitate to call it a newsletter. So, and we had that at Old Home Day. The Newmarket Charter Commission logo, I had again, use that term loosely, but I had a friend do that. So, and she's a local resident and artist in Newmarket. So Laura Harper, in case I'll give her a little plug for doing that for free, and maintains LGP Gallery, which is downtown on Main Street. So, so everything was free. You know, the website it's free, other than the $20 domain name, which is a one-time fee. And you know, I did the printing at home, and then we did Old Home Day. So that was the other thing, and got out and met some very nice people. Traffic was a little light, but I think it was good to be out there. So whether or not people stopped by, I think just to have the presence there was a really positive thing. And the overall response was very positive. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Bathrooms are very nice. You know, they smell like sandalwood in there.
TMI, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Newsletter.
So, yeah,
Where
so
can you get
I
one?
sent this, well, I sent this out. So you didn't get that either, huh?
No,
You didn't either?
no.
Oh.
I've never seen this before.
We have no
I saw it
communication
because I
amongst
was
us
at
at
Old
all.
Home.
Yeah.
I've never
But you
saw
didn't
it.
see that either?
Never seen it.
Okay. I didn't add you, actually. I should, so we should add you onto the, onto our emails, okay.
I was just wondering, is there going to be a link on the town website to reach?
That's a good question. So I can contact Steve and make that happen.
Because that would.
Actually,
Yep.
If I had a question, we're going to get one.
Right here. So, and the thought is that we could put, I gave them out at Old Home Day, but then also the thought is that we could hang them up in town, and it could change on a monthly basis. And, I mean, again, it's not a lot of information. It's more just a little snippet, and this is who we are. And
What is the website, Tony? In case people at home are wondering.
Yes,
Oh,
what is the
that's
website?
helpful. It is newmarketcharter.com. So www.
You've got to say it at least 3 times. It's
Yeah.
advertising, the rule of 3.
There you go.
Newmarketcharter.com.
Newmarketcharter.com.
All one word, I assume.
All one word, no spaces.
Excellent.
So,
Phil?
I totally agree that we need a link on the town website. Who's going to curate the content?
I think that's a good question.
Because, like, I mean, one, we need to drive traffic to it.
Yes.
Because otherwise, I mean, not right now, I guess, once we come up with the edits are going to be, if we're leveraging this as a marketing tool, we need to drive traffic to it. And the other, someone's going to have to keep it fresh and constantly updated, or else people will never go back.
Right.
So I think we need to delegate some form of responsibility.
John Badger.
He was warned.
And I think, I mean, as far as keeping it fresh too, I mean, I think it's also an informational tool, so it's only going to be so exciting at any point.
Are you good at that?
At making it exciting, or?
Or keeping it fresh?
I think so. I mean, I can certainly add, add the minutes as they come up and add agendas, and that's not an issue.
What is the format of the site? Like what language? MediaWiki,
back-end
Drupal,
language?
HTML?
Oh, that's way beyond me.
Oh, all right.
Build your own site.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's a,
Can anybody log in and post stuff?
We could certainly, yeah,
Okay.
we could make that happen.
Okay.
I don't know that I'll give that information out to everybody in the world, but no, I think that, and that's
Okay.
great way to do it.
I think one of the most beneficial pieces of information that we presented at the Old Home Weekend was the, I think you would put it together, was the timelines.
Yes.
That was really, as a matter of fact, it wouldn't be bad for us to have the timelines posted here as we meet, but maybe, I don't know if that's on the website or not, but that would be.
It's not, I mean, and one of those, yeah, no, it's not yet.
Like this?
Yes, that,
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that looks super helpful. Where'd you get that, Bruce?
we get that like first or second night we were in?
I did that.
I think you did.
Tony, great job. I obviously displayed my appreciation by calling it fabulous work on communication. It's probably not appropriate for an agenda, but I thought that the whole day, that everything was well organized, and I talked to quite a few people. I mean, 3 is a lot, in my opinion.
Right.
Who were very interested in the charter, wanted to know what we were doing. They were positive, so I thought it went well. Thank you.
Welcome. And I also started an FAQ, which I haven't posted to the website yet. It's, really, really light, but again, I think that it is one of those things, and I had, maybe, did I send that out? I'm not sure, but the idea of it, anyway, I did send out, and I do think that we need more than my perspective on that. I think that it would be helpful. So, I mean, I have the basics, and I had that at Old Home Day, but, they're really basic questions, just what is the charter, what is the charter commission, those kind of questions. But I think that, and again, Merrimack had a good, their FAQ was pretty intense, I think. So it might be something good to look at.
Okay. Anyone have any more questions or input for Tony? We will look as we improve our email communications and distribution of information, not really communications. I don't want to give anybody the impression that there's back and forth going on in email that is not finding its way into our file. Nevertheless, with that, we will begin to build this website and continue our outreach. Does anybody have any new items and discussion points you'd like to bring up? I will give you, I'm sorry. I am meeting with the town's attorney before the next meeting, and then he will be coming to the next meeting.
Good.
So the items that you gave for me, he's been on vacation, and everybody's been on vacation. So we will have John Radigan in attendance at the next meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, with the commission's discretion to get him in and out. And please prepare your legal questions, and I will be meeting with him beforehand to download all the stuff that we raised at the last meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Oh, we're going to discuss the other issues, the CIP
With him or now?
now, or whatever?
Oh, yeah, later tonight. I just wait, I'm
okay.
still going over the kind of
I
things we
thought
had.
you were ready to adjourn.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
It's come up, I think, twice tonight, and that's relating to the commission's, giving the commission a good understanding of what the options are relative to the different forms of government. Is that something that John can present to us?
It's number 1 on my list, is to talk about the legal aspects of us considering different forms of government. Not really the policy aspects. That's kind of our ballgame.
Okay.
Is that what your impression of? That was what my notes said to me.
Okay.
What are the legal obligations and rights and ability of us as a charter to change the form of government right now?
Right. I guess as a follow-up to that, is trying to get some input from people that have worked under, or have knowledge of the practical aspects of how these things work, is what I'd like to know more about.
Okay.
And I don't know where we get that. I was hoping that the intern would be able to provide us with some kind of background as to what things work well, and when somebody has changed from one form of government to another one, was it a pleasant experience, or didn't make any difference? I guess, again, trying to get some practical input from somewhere, so we don't reinvent the wheel. And I'm not sure how to do that.
That inquiry may be fairly limited, because I don't think too many towns recently have changed their form of government too recently. I'm not aware of that many. But John may know, just because he's a municipal attorney.
Okay.
And I can ask him to ask around the firm, or I don't know if anybody else has any input on how to discern that kind of information.
I mean, we just had, was it Merrimack that was
Yeah.
here a few weeks ago? And I'm at the place, I mean, I think we need to pretty quickly, in very short order, make that determination. Really say, what's the form gonna be? And then from there, we can make edits. I feel some pressure at this point that it's midway through August and we haven't made that determination yet.
I agree. That's why it's on the agenda.
Good. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Leo, you wanted to continue the conversation on the CIP?
Well,
I think that's
basically, the
appropriate.
CIP, I think you people, maybe you've got, I sent a letter to Steve about what his thoughts were on the CIP. You know, we discussed previously how much of the issues on the call for the CIP have not been followed, and basically asked him whether he had the staff and whatever to do them. And he seems to feel, yes, they have the staff to do it, to follow it. So I guess that's the, and I feel that, no, the CIP ought to be put in as one of the administrative boards, like Budget Committee and Planning Board and whatever, rather than a board put in at the discretion of the council. No, I think it's been 10 years, and I think it's shown its worth, and it is a good long-range tool that I think has been helpful in the past that we haven't had, even trucks and all the various departments, what their future programs would be. So I think, and I guess discussion should be, well, we ought to, right now, the council elects a representative, the budget committee elects, appoints one of their members and as an alternate, and the planning board and so that's 3 of them. And we had the finance director and town planner as 4th and 5th members, and if Steve's and seems almost universal feeling is that they should not be voting members of the CIP, whatever they should be. Not ad hoc, but what the hell do you call it?
Standing committee?
Yeah. So I guess that was the basis of the discussions, and if we want to do that, how do we go about writing it up as part of a charter revision or amendment or whatever?
I have to admit, I have not looked through are any of the other city or town charters, do they treat the CIP committee the same way that you're talking about? Like, we look at some of the other?
Well, it's by statute, it's,
Yeah.
you really set your own.
Okay.
I forget what the RSA is, but it's kind of limited to what it's due. It's an advisory board only, and so it's presently set up according to the charter. I mean, according to the RSA enabling legislation. So, I guess the question, how it would be put into the charter.
Yeah, and I was kind of asking, I was wondering, I was confessing that I had not looked at all the other charters to see if any other town addressed it.
Yeah, I think they kind of do with.
They just incorporate the statutory provisions.
Yeah, and
okay.
Whatever.
I have no problem adding it. I think it's an important function in the town government. It's the only place that actually does look kind of forward. It's not the only place. People, there are boards that look forward, but it's the only place that is required to look forward. And I have no issue with it being back here with the budget committee and the planning board. I would say that I think that if there's a council rep and a budget committee rep, they should be a voting member of it, but of the CIP.
Who?
If there's a council and budget committee rep on it, they should be voting.
Oh, yeah, the
members.
budget committee, the council rep votes, the
Yeah.
budget committee rep votes, the planning board rep votes.
Yep.
And they have alternates to them, so we, at one time, had problems getting a quorum, so by putting alternates in, and basically the alternates in the past 3-4 years when I've been on, they've been appointed to replace the planner or the finance director. So we usually ended up with 4 or 5 voting members by using the 2 alternates there because the finance person was really not there and the planning person really didn't want to vote on some of these issues, whatever. And I guess Steve's opinion is they should not be voting members also. If you see his email, did you see his email reply to me? He did not think they should be voting members either. And I think probably 3 voting members is probably adequate. 5 members, 3 voting. Unless you could make the alternates voting if you wanted to, I suppose.
Thank you, Leo. Okay, so we have 15 minutes left. I agree with Phil, and you know I've been asking this question 100 times. What more does this commission need before we can start getting at this question of form of government? Are we ready to put this on the agenda and start talking about it in full form after we meet with Attorney Radigan at the next meeting? Or is there any other information you can ask of the town administrator or anybody else that we might be able to do to bring this question to a point that we're ready to start talking about it? I don't need to say that we have to decide it, but really getting into the meats of this discussion. Chris?
I say no, but Steve sent out something today
I have not had a chance to review it.
that I looked at, and there's a lot to discuss in there.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna need to see him.
I intend him to be, I would request that the commission requests that Steve attend the next meeting with
Yeah,
the Attorney
just to
Radigan.
explain to us some of what he's put in there.
Okay. So let's put that on the agenda, this form of government and Attorney Radigan's decision.
Yeah.
Does Tony, do you need any more authorization before you open up the website? Are we ready to go with that? Can we do it?
It's
You need
open.
$20?
No,
Okay.
it's
Do you-
it's up.
It's
up and running.
Oh, it's up and running now?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
open to the public? Great, good
Yeah,
job.
because I mean, I gave these out at Old Home Day, so
Okay. I immediately went home and checked, but my
Yeah.
internet was down. I'm just,
I would say John Radigan, Steve, and then we start talking.
okay.
Yep.
Anybody have any problem with that? Great.
And John should probably hang around.
Yeah.
We're paying him a flat fee.
I agree, he's on retainer, we
Yeah.
should be here the entire meeting.
Right.
Okay.
That way we can blame stuff on him when it goes wrong.
All right.
That's what John Badger's function is tonight.
Anyone else with anything?
Well, I guess, quick update on village districts. I did, the only local one is Newfields, so I did call up the chair of the Newfields Village District Water and Sewer and asked them how long they've had it. They've had it since the 70s, whatever. The village district is Newfields and how it's been working, and several other answers he brought up, and he said he'd be willing to come and talk to us at some time in the future if we would like to have it. And I also looked up the only water sewer village district that's similar to ours in size and scope is the Plymouth Water Village District, and they just did a $6 million upgrade, and they received for the wastewater thing, and they received a 75% grant. They dump in at Pemigewasset. Similar to Newmarket, they have Wright and Pierce as consultants for wastewater, Emery and Garrett as consultants for water, which is basically what we've had in the past several years. They have $3 million budget. They use 250,000 gallons a day, their water system, which is about exactly what we use. They have a 3-member water board of commissioners. For the staff, they have a district administrator, a water and wastewater superintendent. They got 4 people in their wastewater plant, 2 people in the water, and they have 2 office people to run it. Their rates are within $1 of Newmarket for water and sewer, which not kind of surprising. The only difference they have is they give a 10% discount to seniors for water and sewer.
Seniors don't go to the bathroom as well?
Don't drink as
So-
much
Oh,
water.
don't drink as much.
Not a bad idea.
Do what I do, don't pay.
So I guess so.
Thank
It
you, Leo, for
seems-
doing all this work.
It seems everyone,
You're steady.
there seems to be a general consensus from councils and whatever that most everyone feels that water and sewer users should be voting on water and sewer budgets, and basically the only statutes that allow this RSA 152, which is the village districts, and the enabling legislation that allows boards of public water commissioners is RSA 38C, which calls for the establishment, how you can combine one board to do water, sewer, or whatever you want to do, and it tells what the commissioner's duties are Chapter 38C2, and the appointments, elections of members. 38 is basically, is the Title 3, towns, cities, village districts, non-incorporated places for municipal water, sewer, and that gives us the enabling legislation to do this. RSA 52 gives you the legislation to do village districts. So you really do both of them at once. That's what we have to do, is write the charter such that we would be doing, like in Newfields, the way they did it, under the Board of Selectmen, 10 petitioners go to the selectmen. The selectmen actually authorized to do it. They didn't have to go to town meeting in Newfields. The selectmen authorized the establishment of village district, established the boundaries and whatever. And they've been ahead, and it's been there for 30 years now.
If we're giving pre-questions to the town attorney, I think one should be about what we would have to do to establish one of these in the charter.
Yeah, and that was my question when we talked about last week, because I do know a lot about how the village district in Newfields came about and everything like that, and that was always my confusion is, the statutes are very clear about a board of selectmen form of government, but they don't say anything about what happens if it's a council or a city.
Yeah, well,
And if you read some of these charters that had village districts, they reference them in the creation of the charter.
Yeah.
So it looked like it pre-existed the creation of the charter. And so it kept it in place, but none of them talk about creating the district.
it does say here that the municipality would determine the duties, powers and duties of the people in the district, and if you look at definitions and
We certainly don't have to solve it now.
so definition, municipality means any city, town, unincorporated town, unorganized place or village district within the state. So in the statutes, a village district means the municipality. So whenever it said the municipality can do this, if you have a village district, they have the same powers as the statute says for municipalities.
Great. Mr. Zink.
I don't want to open up Pandora's box here, but we've been talking a lot about the Budget Committee and its roles and how it works in the town. Do those same questions exist for other committees as well? For example, the Planning Board? I mean, would it be and again, I don't want to entertain more than we need to work on, but I'm curious as to why we're focusing on the Budget Committee. Is it because we feel that it's that committee that is the least efficient and has the most issues, or what?
I think well, I'll just purely speculate. Some of those boards are required by statute. Like, you have to have a planning board, you have to have a board of adjustment, and if you're going to have a zoning ordinance or do regulate the subdivision of land. With the Budget Committee, it seems like it's remotely optional under how we choose to form our government. So I think it's a more directly related question to things that within our purview.
Okay.
And I do believe people have made some pretty thoughtful comments about ways to improve that situation or frustrations they've experienced, and so it's been brought to us.
But if you look at the language in the charter, the language for the Budget Committee and the language for the Planning Board is exactly the same. And it says these committees shall be governed by state law.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, and I'll try one more time, is our focus on the Budget Committee
We could get rid of the Budget Committee without changing our form, like anything. but we could not get rid of the planning board or zoning board unless we said we're not going to have zoning in this town. Is that what you're saying, Clay?
Yeah, well, that, just for those specific.
We would have to
boards,
get rid
not
of
for all the
zoning
other ones.
entirely. We could not, it would just be.
You can't just
overall.
stop
Gotcha.
the planning board.
Gotcha. So even though the Budget Committee and the Conservation Commission look similar, they're not. We have to have we can,
We could get rid of, we could get rid of the Conservation Commission, we could get rid of the planning board or zoning board, but then we would have no zoning. Then it would just be, right, it would just be free-for-all.
Right. I mean, if you want to get rid of zoning, that's a horrible mistake. and B,
Well, no, I'm not advocating it. I think, but to me, I didn't mean to jump in the chairs.
No, no,
But I
it's not-
think
it's
the
not
answer
my
to your
place.
question is that
I was
we would
gonna-
be doing, you can get rid of the budget committee, because you could have a debate as to whether the budget committee is performing a redundant function to what the council and
Right.
school board are supposed to do. But planning board and zoning board are performing sole functions that no other organization actually performs within our community. So you couldn't just,
they're also not spending money, and they don't have any role in the budget process. We're talking about, we're talking about the budget committee because we're talking about money.
yeah, but I think what Al is saying, I think is right. The concept you're saying is correct, that we shouldn't just be focusing on the budget committee. Like, are there other places we should be looking and saying, is the structure of committees in this town correct?
that's better. I wish you would ask the question rather than I. I mean, if we had members of the planning board come before us and say, let me tell you what's wrong with how we do our work, is that in the purview of the Charter Commission?
Planning.
Purview of the planning board.
Well, determined by statute, and duties and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Planning statutes pretty well define their
Okay.
responsibilities.
The ZBA is not even worth talking about. It has such a narrow function.
Right.
Yeah,
It's an awesome group with
without doubt.
a very attractive chair, but
Could somebody please make a motion to
No,
adjourn?
no.
Mr. Hawkins.
No, sadly, I have another question.
Okay.
Because it was brought up by two members of the town that came tonight. We know that 900-odd people voted for a committee, for the Charter Commission to be formed, and apparently, from the two of them brought it up, Mr. Pickering brought it up first about what they thought it was formed for. You know, we've had 10 or 12 or 15 people come in out of the town to speak, and again, as I said, 900 people voted for it, and one time we said, why did nobody shows up? But we have had some people show up. But they both brought up the fact that they thought the Charter Commission was formed to utilize efficiency committee or efficiency forum recommendations or to rein in spending, okay? They thought that's why it was formed. And they brought up the efficiencies committee. Should we have some input, or was there an efficiency committee or forum people that need to make more input to this that we should listen to? I mean, we've given opportunities for people to come.
I can respond to that. The purpose of the Efficiency Committee originally was to attract the school and the town to work together to find efficiencies. And then it was further expanded to look at regionalization, where we might go to Newmarket and so forth. And what the committee found, I believe, was that the Efficiency Committee was without any authority or any charter to do anything. And that when all was said and done, we thought the only way to do it was to get the Charter Commission together to do it. And in hopes during the time when the Charter Commission met, it would discuss things like working relationships and so forth. So I think that was the Efficiency Committee really did two things. It got the town meetings together, and it got the Charter Commission together in the hopes that the Charter Commission would address some of these issues. And it's dormant.
So are we doing that?
Yes.
Because I know in some social media, we're still being pilloried. So, and I just wanted to say that I don't think anybody here believes this is a joke, which is what I've read, and that a lot of the committees and stuff in town are a joke. And I just wanted to go on record as saying, I don't think we believe this is a joke, or that anybody that's serving is putting their time in for the other committees. And I wanted to make sure we're answering the questions of, because two people brought it up tonight, seriously. And we don't want to leave any stone unturned. We want everybody to feel they've had their say, and I just wanted an answer to that, and make a little comment. Thank you.
You know how I feel about social media. Anyone else? We have a podium right there. If anybody would like to come and say anything to us, we welcome that. We obviously had
Anytime.
a good time tonight talking to everybody. Mr. Levy, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. You of all those people give way too much of your time. Thanks for making it for us tonight. I will now accept a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Zink. Second. Thank you, Tony. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Meeting 2 weeks?